Got it. Got it. All right, so basically what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go in and actually update the spreadsheet for today. And what I'm going to be doing is basically going in and harvesting rewards and showing the actual growth of our assets and how much rewards that we've essentially purchased. Now, I've set all this up for the MuDAO essentially to be able to provide additional streams of revenue that can do several different functions inside the Mu ecosystem. They can essentially be used to build up reserves of capital, to be able to do various different things inside the ecosystem. They can be used to essentially do buybacks of Mu coins and Mu golds to essentially, if we're being 100% transparent, I just usually typically say stuff how I see them and how I feel. And sometimes people are so attached to words and just like the overall meaning of words. But anyways, it's manipulate the price, right? And that's essentially what we would be doing whenever we perform buybacks as a DAO. Is essentially what we're doing is we're causing some price manipulation, some price stabilization. We're going in and essentially we're taking capital that we have and dumping it back in, which is essentially, pushing the price up of the asset, which is essentially how things work in the first place. So, and we can do other things for them, but let's just go in and essentially farm out. So yesterday I went in, and it was the first time I farmed everything. It was the first time I farmed everything out. And this was kind of the results from yesterday. I created a video, I put it in there in the Discord for everybody. So you can see kind of like our assets, what our assets are, and then what rewards we got yesterday, okay? And then we're gonna go in and actually harvest everything today, and we're just gonna keep a track of what's actually being generated with the assets that we have, and then how we can use that to continuously put value into the actual Mu ecosystem. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here, and I'm already thinking that we're no longer going to stake any Joe. And instead of staking Joe, we're just going to essentially convert the Joe into another asset and basically take that conversion and put it back into liquidity pools to compound rewards instead of doing what we're actually doing here. And what we're doing here is we're staking Joe. So Joe is a token that we can essentially sell in the market, and it's the farming token for actual Trader Joe's. And we can sell this on the market and get money for it if we would like. So we can get $1.24 for one of them if we would like, or we could essentially stake Joe and basically give it to them and stake it. And for that, they will give us some additional rewards. And those rewards can be, in this instance, they're giving us a VJO token. So they're giving us another token. And this token, essentially what it does is it allows us to earn a bonus boost yield on our farms. So the bonus that we get is kind of proportional to how much VJO that we actually have. So got 190 Joe staked over here. So we know in those assets, we already have $190, $236 of yield that we farmed, that instead of cashing it out and like we did yesterday and buy Mu with it, we didn't cash this out. We just actually staked it in the system, and for that we're getting some actual rewards. So we have some also staked over here. where instead of getting VJO, which is additional APR on the farms, and I'll show you that in a second, we're just getting actual an APR and getting paid out in United States dollar coins. So we're just getting basically right now 13% a year interest, having that capital staked over there versus, pulling it out for what we could have pulled it out for, which was 236. So now we're going to go in and actually farm our assets. So the first thing we're going to farm is we're going to farm this AVAX UST, which is Terra, which is a stable coin. We're going to go in and actually farm this. We're going to go in and farm this pool. So go to this pool. We're going to see we have 102,653. So we're going to come over here and put our new assets, 102,653. And basically our assets. So remember, when we're farming, we have a 10% return on this capital that's going into the actual pool. So we're not going to be farming that part of it. All we're farming right now is we're farming the Joe APR and we're farming this bonus APR. This other 10% is actually stuck inside this pool over here and it's accumulating inside this pool. And you can see in the 24 hours, this pool has grown from 96,000 to 102,000. So it's actually grown. It's grown some amount already, 4%. And we have in rewards over here, we've got 19,09640, 19,09640. And 2930422. That's how many UST rewards that we got. So we got $29 in rewards in USD. We got basically 23, the equivalent to $23 and Joe as a reward. So now we can just actually harvest that. And we'll get that reward, which is what we got today from that asset. And then we'll go farm some other assets. Now I can see I got some Joe over here and I got some UST over here as well. And then this asset will just go back off and accumulate some more rewards for us. And this asset, if you don't know what this asset is, it's essentially a liquidity pool. So what's actually happening over here is there's liquidity pools where you have pairs of assets that people can trade between, and you go in and essentially give a proportion of those assets to the actual pool, and then you get back some tokens as a receipt that you did that. So you can come back and give those tokens back and pull out your initial capital that you put in, that you were letting people trade with. So you go get that, you go get those tokens, and then once you get those tokens, you can actually bring those tokens over here and you're basically staking them. You can farm them and just basically lock them up. And while you have them locked up, they're going to give you some additional funds. They're going to give you some reward. So we got that reward. Now we're going to go over to our AVAX and lost. This one we have 14002. At an 8% gain just inside the asset. You see, this was what our asset pool was. So the asset pool, meaning what? Meaning we could go right now, and what we could do right now is we could essentially say, hey, unstake. I want to unstake all these tokens. And actually, once we unstake all these tokens, we can come back over to this liquidity pool, and we can essentially put those tokens back in this liquidity pool. And once we put those tokens back in that liquidity pool, we're going to pull out an asset that's now basically $1,000 more. We had $1,000 gain essentially there that we can now go in and actually realize and be like, okay, that asset's grown by 8%. So now let's harvest those rewards, because we're not going to do that. We're going to leave that asset sitting over there harvesting some rewards, and we're going to see what did we get from there. So we got 107 loss. So we got 107 loss over here. When we put in loss, what we're putting in over here, we're actually just putting in Joe. So in the Joe values, we're actually putting in the amount of Joe. And the other values, we're putting in basically the dollar amount that we're cashing out for that. So we're not going to actually put in, this 107 of lost. We're going to put in this 192 of lost. What we're essentially going to do is we're going to go in and look and make sure that we don't have any loss. Actually, what we have about should be seen. That should be seen loss, but I don't see it. I've got some. I think that's small amount. That's 78 cents. 78 cents. And Joe, we're getting 657,006. We're getting, it's saying 192, that we're getting 192. So there's our loss that we got. And basically 197, 191, almost 200 bucks. That guy's claimed. Now here in this pool, you can actually see that they're talking about the VJO we seen earlier, and that because of that VJO, we're getting a boost APR. We're getting some additional yield on top of what they're giving everybody else. We're getting some bonus boost because we have so much VJO. And we can see that there's somebody that's getting a 56% bonus, an extra 56 because they have enough VJO. That's their bonus reward. So that just means if we get more and more VJO, we can actually increase this up to this. This is the average boost that someone's actually getting. So we have a lot less of this than the average person. But what do we have over here? We do get some Joe. We get some 35, basically 44 bucks. 35, 19678. Seven, 6, 8, 1, 2. That guy grew by 4%. That guy grew by 8%. That guy grew by 4%. So get an extra $2,000 there on that asset as well. If we liquidate it, then we would essentially have that additional asset. We don't have it right now. It's impermanent. We could claim it though. We could claim it if we wanted to, just by unstaking, pulling out our liquidity, and then boom, there it would be. So now we got that. So what we basically got was our total asset. So we got, look, we got an extra $8,000 in unrealized gains that we could go in and essentially boom, pull out our liquidity, and that could change. So this could actually change. This could end up now going down or going up even more because it is dependent on some things, which is essentially the price at which these guys are trading. But overall, it's going to actually continue. Overall, it's going to actually continue to grow. So we yielded everything. We got $221. We got $221. And if you think, all right, if this is, and then we also have these other monies over here. We didn't put those in there. We have these other monies over here. So we can take these monies. So max that out, and we're gonna get what? We're gonna get another 75. We're gonna get another $75 that we can have. Let's make one more conversion, and we'll convert that USD. So we're gonna add that, and then we'll do a buyback. Is that what we should do? What do you guys think we should do with this money? I think we should do a buyback. We'll buy some more meal. I'll trade it up, I think. That was basically today, $300. $300 of rewards that were directly yielded by assets. We just added some of those, by the way. So this is just the cash rewards. We also sold those. We also sold those Joe today, and that will give us 860. That will give us 860 new coins. 34 cents. For 34 cents. Now, you could see that instead of, because what are we doing? All right. Whenever we go in and essentially doing this, what we're doing is we're putting essentially money back into this ecosystem over here, specifically over here. Well, we don't really know. We could go actually any route. We're putting money back into this ecosystem over here. Okay. So we could be doing that. And if we do that, what happens? So if we do that, what essentially happens is we're affecting some price. So we're affecting some price. So we're going to cause price movements. So right now we're at 34 cents. I think we're waiting for confirmation to buy this new coin. Swap that. And we can see right now the price is 34,186, 773,654. Seems like we just swapped some exact tokens from that's USDC, USDCE. Got some new coins. It's like 860. Three, four. You can see those prices there. Probably refresh. See, there's been some change, some increase from here. There's been some increase. There's also here been some increase. And then basically we can create more value in the ecosystem by making this change and getting these. But when we make this change, we're basically only going to be affecting this price. Now this price may actually change as well, but this can always be changing because these guys, and this is deliberately how we want to build this ecosystem. These guys are always basically incentivized to essentially be trading. So you see when one trade happens, it's essentially triggering trades just between ourselves. If you can see, we're trading over here between this liquidity pool. Here we're trading in between these liquidity pools. Here we're also trading in between these liquidity pools. So just constantly arbitraging between different tokens that we're wanting to actually continue to invest in those tokens. Then essentially through the mu coin, it's allowing us to hold those tokens that we actually want to hold and to continue to hold, and even actually get rewarded with more of those tokens in the form of liquidity provider fees. We're just continuously getting those and acquiring those in a way that's kind of on an autopilot, where the bots just kind of trade for us automatically. So now let's see. Add some price over here now. Add some price over there, and we just need to make this trade and get 37 mu gold, which are currently worth, boom, says 778. So that looks like he's happy with that. And now I got some new gold. So we filled some reserve. We filled some reserve of mu gold. And this mu reserve kind of meant to not actually have much of a mu reserve unless you need it, and whenever you need it, essentially grab some of this and fill it up from there. These reserves, we didn't actually keep any of these, but you can understand that we could essentially, we could go in and essentially build these up, and we could be building them up, and we kind of essentially were from these assets over here. Okay, so I just showed you 3 different assets over here that are some amount of asset that we've set aside, which is essentially a reserve. It's our capital. It's literally money. It's, just money sitting there. But because we have that money, we have that asset there, and we're providing liquidity. And then we're also, since we know we're going to provide that liquidity, we're farming that out to get rewards. Kind of just like I've showed you, it's now generating some revenue. And we've seen that it essentially did what in that one day. It went in and we were able to generate some $300 from it. We got some $300 from it. So we just got $300 worth of free money for having it sitting there. And it also basically appreciated $8,000. It grew in size, that we could essentially go in and cash out if we wanted to and say, okay, hey, we've just, from our asset pool, we've just realized another $8,000 worth of growth, which is capital. But this should always essentially be growing, because what the goal essentially obviously is to be able to provide ample rewards from this stream of revenue. And in order to do that, you really want to be able to do what? You want to be able to take this stream of revenue right here and then be taking some of it and putting it back over here into more of these assets that can generate a larger amount. Because if you want to pay out more and more rewards, then you want this to actually be growing, and you really want this to be growing from some assets. So that means that if you want this to grow, you need to buy more assets than what you have right now, or somehow figure out how to get a better yield and a better return on your investment. So I've tried to take an approach right now that's just, it's pretty, I don't want to say it's risk-free, but it's mostly tied up in stable coins and so it's mostly tied up in a stable coin, and then the main token for Avalanche entire blockchain, right? So it's mostly all tied up in pretty stable stuff, or the blockchain coin, and some random new token. It's not some complete random new token. It's Lost Worlds, and they're trying to do actually some cool stuff. But anyways, they pay a much higher return, so that's why we have a portion of it, over there. But that's basically all the rewards for today. So we'll answer any questions if you have any questions.
Like it's keep always on positive side, or it goes negative as well? Like these total assets will always increase, or like if market will dump, it will go minus as well?
Well, they could decrease. They could decrease for sure. It's possible that's impermanent loss. So it's possible for them to them to decrease if there's big changes in price and stuff for sure. So if the assets are losing value, then it's possible for them to essentially decrease for sure. Was that it? That's your only question?
Yeah. One more, like the last time you did that, all those the sale to get these assets out. So like in future, everything is managed by you. So again, there could be a chances like you need more assets so you can pump out more money from that, or you'll be using only these assets.
What did what was your question?
Like for these assets, you sold new coin and you invested in these farming. So like for future to gain more business asset, you'll be using these assets, new assets, or you'll be selling new coins.
Well, in the ecosystem, the goal is to kind of essentially be doing. The goal is essentially to be kind of doing both. So if you think what's essentially just happened, now this was pretty drastic for most people. I think they think this was pretty drastic to see something like this, to see like something lose so much value so quick. But if you think now we've done this, right? And what was this? This was actually our own revenue and our own assets that we've actually put into the ecosystem to keep bringing it up. But so now let's say if we take the same approach, and what we're essentially doing is we're going in and now we're just buying back from the revenue that we're generating from our assets. We're just buying back and buying back and buying back and buying back. What are we essentially doing? Well, we're getting back we're growing these reserves, right? So we're growing these reserves over here where we're growing our own supply, and we're having our own supply, which we can be using to essentially, as we get that, we can use to participate in the ecosystem ourselves as an entity, because we're essentially holding all of that because it's in our reserves. And then yes, at times use what's in our reserves to go in and actually pull back out more capital, and then go in and actually create more and more of these assets. And so I think that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. But like what usually I see in other projects, like they have like this vesting contract period, like for the next 1 year or 2 years, will not touch this fund. Like obviously it's your money, you initially invested to get the price high, and it was all your money, and you took make the assets. But what they people earn from the sale and everything, so they keep their vesting period, like the development team and the project owners, like for the next 1 year, 2 year, or like every quarterly will take out 5% to our development team, or to like you would be doing that, or like only like it's your decision that whenever you want to use the reserve, you can use that.
Well, the reserve is from this reserve is from the actual DAO. Okay, so this is the actual ecosystems, and for the actual ecosystem to control for sure. Like they get to kind of vote on what to do with that. So the ecosystem can, and right now, yes, transparently, I am a lot of the ecosystem because I put in the actual most money, as I'm the one actually investing the most.
Yeah, you were the only, like, obviously you were doing all the purchases, 10K, 20K, I saw every time. Like you were doing putting all the money in this ecosystem initially.
Still, well, and still at this time, not just initially, but not just initially, I'm still putting most of it in there. So yeah, and that's kind of like the whole ideal of the system anyways, is to essentially go in and be able to make money ourselves as an entity from doing this. And what does it hamper if we're going in and essentially, okay, we're generating some revenue, we're using that revenue to essentially go in and buy back our own assets, which when we're buying back our own assets, what we're essentially doing is we're raising the price of stuff because we're buying back our own assets. So, okay, hey, that price is going up every time we're actually buying our own assets. Now we bought them, and what did we buy them with? We bought them with revenue that we actually generated from our own assets. So those are also our assets that we actually bought those. So let's keep buying them. And then once we get to points, let's actually, sell them off because we're ourselves making a profit on that actual trade. And then let's actually use those to get more reserves, to get more assets that will actually generate more constant cash flow so that we can really actually manipulate this thing that's going up and down. That consists a lot of speculators going in and actually speculate and wanting to speculate, or participants that are wanting to actually go in and use the ecosystem and get a product or service from the ecosystem and get some utility, or people who are wanting to get some rewards and earn some money, and people who are really trying to build a passive income system. I'm not sure if that, I think that answers your question. Like, yes, the plan is to use these reserves as much as we can whenever it makes sense to go in and actually get back our asset, or to go in and actually get capital from the system, and then go buy more and more assets that generate cash flow, and then also use that to start buying back some of our assets as well.
But what my perspective, like I'm an investor, like I'm talking from the point of view of investor, like we are putting money and we want our money to grow. And suddenly once we wake up and we see like our investment is down by 80% or 70%. So we know, like, we trust you, we trust the project, it will go up, but still nobody likes to lose money. So that is what my question is, like, suddenly you will sell all the 80-70% dump, or you will do it in gradual way. Like my question was, like, people do it in quarterly, or like they have like every quarter 5% will take it out, it is into vesting contract, or 1%.
Everything's already in a vesting contract like literally everything's already been put into a vesting contract for 6 years. So that's actually
you are just selling what you're buying right now, like you are daily or purchasing, that only you selling, that's what you meant to say.
For sure. So everything's actually been put into a vesting contract, right? Everything's been put into a vesting contract. And then after that, I've just been buying up and buying up and buying up and buying up. And it makes sense that I would continue to do that. Like, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that whenever us as an entity in an ecosystem, whenever we're actually going to go in and sell our assets we're going to sell our reserves to get capital for assets, that we would do it in a slow manner, or that we would, that there is a way that people would essentially know that, because those would be decisions that are happening from the participants in the ecosystem that are actually aware that, hey, this is, hey, there's proposals, we've got these reserves, we're going to go in and actually be using those reserves to get more capital.
Makes sense, everything.
I also want to see your guys' investment grow as well. But I also want to see my investment grow. And you can say 97% of this right here is my investment. So like 97% of this is actually my investment. And my investment is still way up here. So it is possible that I might take 100K of my own money and put it in here, and then put the price right back up in here. And then if people want to go in and buy on top and keep buying and investing, if I want to go pull my 100K out, then I'll make that transaction because I'm also an investor. And
then John is a whales that we call in crypto. Whales is coming and whales is going out.
anybody can do that at any time. So if anybody wants to come in and take $1 million, they can put $1 million in the ecosystem. That's great for us. That's great for the ecosystem. But that
mostly it happens most of the time they are like the behind the curtain, like we don't know who owns that particular wallet address, but we know you put into those videos and everything, so we know like John sold and buying everything. So that's what makes the transparent thing.
For sure. Well, the whole goal of this ecosystem is to essentially essentially really benefit people who are in this vault right here. So now this vault is built in a way where the participants that are in this vault can never really have that mentality, like my investments losing value, because it's always gain. So the real goal is essentially to essentially own these guys. All right. Now to get these guys, there's different ways that we can do that. One of those things is we can have some revenue stream. And that revenue stream is generating some revenue. And from that revenue, what are we doing? We're going in essentially just using capital to yield rewards. That's the most sustainable. So that's always going to be the most sustainable thing for an ecosystem, and that you really want to create, because that's real cash flow that's coming just from those assets actually sitting there, versus needing some speculation to happen or needing some utility to actually happen, right? Because both of those require something. For the speculation, we have to rely on speculators wanting to come in and speculate and actually buy something after we did, so that we can actually make some revenue. For the utility, we have to rely on people who want to utilize something, or like utilizing something, or willing to actually pay to utilize something. But on letting our assets generate cash flow, there's neither one of those conditions. And that's ultimately the end goal for this whole ecosystem, is to essentially go in and build those things up and use those things to generate revenue for the actual people who are actually investing into the actual ecosystem. So if you think about it from some extent, speculators are people who are coming in and saying, like, if you really think about it, somebody who's coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to buy this token, and I'm going to hold this token. I'm going to hope this token actually goes up in value, because whenever it does, I'm going to sell this token for a profit. They're not actually investing into the ecosystem, if you think about it. So those investors aren't actually investing into the actual ecosystem. What they're doing is speculating. They're hoping that through putting some capital over there, they're going to be able to actually get some return, right? They're going to be able to take something out of the system. They're going to be able to actually get something out of the system. The actual investors are the people who are going in and actually putting in that thing in the first place for people to actually speculate on. And that's ultimately where the mute vault comes in. So the mute vault ultimately comes in there, where just like a participant who can participate in the DAO and the organization through OR, and who can actually get rewards and get benefits through having OR, you can essentially put that OR in the mute vault and be somebody who's actually investing their capital into the ecosystem, which is kind of like burning your tokens. I mean, it's not really anything like burning your tokens, but but it kind of operates to some extent like that. So that value is now forever locked into the ecosystem and can't be brought out of the actual ecosystem. It's always locked into the ecosystem. It wouldn't make much sense to announce our plans to sell assets or even to actually buy assets, right? That doesn't actually make sense for us to broadcast that out to people or anybody out. I mean, because that's against kind of what the ecosystem wants to do in the first place. The ecosystem is also really wanting to generate revenue and make revenue and distribute that to the actual participants in the ecosystem that aren't the actual, their main way to get value isn't really the growth of the coin and what that's doing. It's from the rewards that are being generated from the ecosystem. The speculation is part of that for sure.
Right.
On the speculation side, it's kind of against the house to want the speculator to win, right? That was, I guess that was a really crazy drop. But these are just all my own personal money that I've put inside there. Like, is what all this is. This is just me putting essentially $200,000 in there after I've already put in $100,000. Even after I told everybody, hey, you guys can go buy this up if you want to buy it up, or not if you don't want to.
It's the perfect time to buy. I just like you started the call, I got around 12 to 18 MU gold. Like that is my today's savings, and I'd like put into this stuff.
And it for sure will rise up to here again and even go beyond
this. Yeah.
Hopefully it will do this lots of times, go up and down, and ultimately end up go up, because it's meant to also be able, part of that is literally to be able to manipulate this price in the first place, which is part of what the revenue needs to do to be able to go in and actually buy it back, because that's what actually manipulates the prices, the buying is the buying and selling. But we really needed assets, so we didn't actually have any assets for the ecosystem. We had a whole bunch of my capital inside the actual ecosystem, so that other people could go in and realize some of if they wanted to. So it was just a lot better to go in and actually get some assets that can put in the capital to drive the price. So now that's kind of essentially automated, right? Now, essentially to some extent, through some cash flow, we can go in if we don't want to pay these out as actual rewards, right? If we don't want to pay them out as rewards, the other way we can pay them out is essentially just doing what we just did, which is buying back. And there, we're not really paying them out. There, what we're doing is we're creating an opportunity for people to realize those rewards if they want to exit our ecosystem, right? So if they want to exit our ecosystem, then what does that mean? That means now the price of entry and exit has been changed. They can exit the ecosystem and they can realize some of those gains if they want. But it's not a guarantee of getting paid out, because the participants that don't go in and actually exit the ecosystem, right? We're going in and we're buying back up with our revenue versus doing what? Versus paying that out for rewards. We could be doing both. We could be paying some out to rewards to the people in the ecosystem, because that's what they're wanting to do and that's what it's proposed to do. And with the other, we could be going in and actually buying up more assets to generate cash flow. And with the other, we can go in and actually be buying back our own reserves and our own assets and pushing the price back up and back up. And that's one way we can give value to the system. And people, if they want to actually exit the system, they can exit and they can realize that that gain. Or if they want to enter the system because they're like, okay, hey, this looks like it's people are getting into this is going on, they can actually enter into that system. And then as we build up those reserves, we're able to go back in and recapitalize whenever we want, whenever we're like, okay, hey, let's take those reserves that we've built back up. That's just our own money that we put in there. And yeah, let's sell them off and kind of continue to do this and build an actual ecosystem that's not dependent on speculation.
Is this about this thing?
For sure. See, these are the bots going through and basically balancing all of these all the time. So they're doing that. I guess it was like 2 days ago. It's just the Ethereum pool. And most of these are all just bots. And what they're doing is they're just auto trading. So that's another way that this is actually set up to try to also generate income. Because there's also another income stream, because you think we're also getting rewards on all of these pools in here. So we're getting a fee on every trade that happens either way in any of these pools, in both assets in the pool. So we're getting both assets. So it means that we're getting the value asset, and we're also getting more of our own asset to put inside our own reserves that allows us to basically put those back out into the pool as well and pull out more actual capital, which is what the ecosystem wants to do, and it's what the DAO wants to do. The DAO wants to really capitalize on the situation and generate revenue for the people who are actually participating in this. Do you have any other questions?
That's it for now.
Awesome. We are the only one here on the live, which is also fun because we're also still super new in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
So if you're invested in this ecosystem, then I think it's a great investment. So if you're looking for the way to actually get returns from the ecosystem, then the biggest way is not going to be through the arbitrage and price going up, because that entire part is meant to be fabricated by the ecosystem and controlled and manipulated by the actual ecosystem itself. Because we could just go in and literally go to all our farms. We go to all our farms, boom, and shut down all our farms here and take out whatever we had here and whatever we had here and assets over here. And then we could basically go and check out the price predictions if we want to go in and essentially buy that much. They're basically right there is where we're at. I think that's close to where we're at right now. I'd have to go and update if that's where we're actually at. That's probably close enough. One 193,467. 193,467. So we could essentially go in and do that if we wanted to. Right now, we're right there. We could go and do that. We just make a purchase and a buy, and we could go up to 342. And this would change. This would change as well, but we could just call it 75. We could go up like that, pretty much, boom, like that. And because of that, that increase could go in and essentially put us over here.
Gainers.
That could essentially put us over here. So, where people would be checking us out, going in and being like, okay, hey, what's this? Maybe they would be like, hey, we'll buy. Maybe other people would be like, hey, we'll sell, we'll exit the ecosystem there.
But this farming option is much better.
What is it?
The farming option is much better rather than putting 75,000 in this.
It is much better for sure.
Yeah.
Because what would that do? That would throw the price back up, right?
It will gradually increase, but it will be a long-term thing. And our asset value will also increase.
For sure. It gives a way for cash flow to go into the actual system as well without anybody actually having to go in and buy and put their own money in. So now there's a way for speculators to come in and throw their money in and go in and out if they want. There's also a way for us to be going in and putting in our value and a way for people participating in the ecosystem to exit that way if they want to actually exit that way. And this is because you think about it, this is all still my investment. All this is literally still all my investment that I have sitting here is literally just my money. So like, so this puts it in a way where I can actually take this money and I can form this ecosystem, and I'm cool with that. Like literally I have 300K in the ecosystem still. You know, I've got this money and another more than 100K inside the ecosystem I could still take out. Even without what's vested, because what's vested is the initial $25,000. So that's what's vested, because I took an initial $25,000 and I put all the tokens there with the initial $25,000, and I put that liquidity pool with the initial $25,000, and all of that's vested. And then since then, I've just been going in and actually buying my own coin and buying my own coin because it's my coin. So of course I'd want to buy it and have some of them, or a lot of them. I just think the money's, instead of actually taking all the investment and just buying into the coin itself, it's a lot better to buy assets that will produce something that can then be used to drop into the ecosystem in several different ways. And that's what I'm actually creating. And it's still super new in our new project. And right now, anybody who's not committed to it long term, they're still kind of committed to it long term for now, unless they want to put more funds into the ecosystem. Because everybody in the ecosystem, they can always go in and put in another $190,000, and they can be right up here somewhere, I guess is what that showed. But then it's all your guys' money and not just all my money. But there's still some of my money in here, and there's probably still going to be more of my money that go inside here, because even I can make money trading through this currency. But you're good on questions, right? I don't know how to turn this live stream on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm done.
Well, that's it, man.